Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and I am live from Paris, France, the home of the sacrilegious, outrageous, infantile, silly, stupid, ignorant, uneducated
Rudy, look at the camera.
Olympics.
Camera.
Whatever the athletes did, God bless them. It has nothing to do with them, and I give them all the congratulations in the world. To the Olympic Committee, all I can say is, if you were close by and it weren't some kind of a violation of the law, which it might be in France, so I'm going to find out first if it's a violation of the law. If it isn't, I would do it to each and every one of you. And then I would say, you try and do it to me and see what happens. But if it's a violation of the law, I won't do it. But I will tell each one of you that I have no respect for you, that I think, among other things, you not only indicated, so much about you, that either you're a Marxist or you're an ignoramus who doesn't understand that he's a Marxist and is being used by them, that you probably are very enormously successful and think of yourself as a well-educated person, but never really read probably the Bible even, much less Marx. I swear that none of you have read the entire work of Karl Marx, much less just the 1,000-page plus Communist Manifesto. Nor did you find in it the whole idea of demeaning religion as one of the most important things you can do, or turning a culture against itself. You began this great festival where you all make enormous amounts of money. And until a few years ago, your committee was crooked as the mafia. You may still be, I don't know. You claim you straightened yourself out, but I don't really think anyone really investigated you. Who the hell would have the guts to do it? You're part of a European infrastructure that's so corrupt in so many ways that it led us 3-4 presidents ago to say we had to look east for the future. We did, and we screwed it up quite a bit. But I think everyone in our country kind of looks upon you as our background and our background, much of which we are enormously proud of, a lot of which you seem to no longer be proud of, including yourselves. Your level of work is pathetic. Your way you treat people is also pathetic, particularly here in Paris. You got an attitude problem, which might have worked when this was a beautiful city. It doesn't work when the city smells. I mean, you got sewer problems in the Seine River, and you're trying to get people to swim in it. I mean, for all the nonsense about COVID, you got a city like Los Angeles and San Francisco that's going to start spreading diseases pretty soon, if you're not doing it already. And none of your swimmers want to swim in that river. They're being forced to do it. And you began working on it 10 years ago. But then a whole bunch of other feces started to come into it. That may be all the illegals that you've let in here who now seem to run the place. Then, I mean, London is a little better. London's a little better, but they got a murder going on in, I think it's Southwick in London, and it's a murder tragically in front of a mosque of a young boy, I think 4, by another boy, 19 or 17. They will not give the name, race, religion, background of the boys. Had it been a white boy killing a black boy, we would have had a London uprising. And you know, of course, that the mayor of London is a well, I don't know what he is. He's certainly anti-Western. He certainly is a horrible, 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 horrible mayor. And all the time that he's been mayor, every time I've gone to London, it's been dirtier, more disorganized, more crowded. The pricing scheme that they used at New York now wants to have completely befuddles traffic. It doesn't look like the beautiful London of old at all. It looks like It looks like some group of total maniacs got control of the walls of London and decided to paint garbage on it. As you compare the two cities, London and Paris, you're both deteriorating. It's like Los Angeles and San Francisco as a mayor and as a good one, and you don't have a good one in either place. You don't even have an average one in either place. I can tell you both of your cities are headed for hell. Paris is there. Pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. I took some shots this morning of the traffic in Paris. And boy, if you got Olympics going on, it sure isn't showing. All your shops are closed. Now, that happens ordinarily with an Olympics. The shops close because I guess the Olympics people, buy Olympic stuff. They don't really spend the kind of money in the town that you expect that they are going to spend. They spend it in the Olympic village and in the Olympic shops, and with a little side benefit. For example, the restaurants don't do as well in Olympics, or at least that was the idea that we had when we were planning it for New York. But the caterers do really well. I do recall with the Winter Olympics in northern Italy, however, the restaurants were packed. Wow! But who's going to be able to beat out an Italian restaurant? Come on. That's one thing that Italy has over both of these places. The food here has deteriorated by leaps and bounds. It started with the horrible food on the plane, and then it continued with the absolutely horrible food every night I've been here in Paris. I had better food in England, in London. So those are my complaints about broken down old England, and I can see why Donald Trump gets annoyed if they're not paying their fair share of NATO, because they look like they don't pay their fair share of anything in the way the cities are being taken care of. I mean, these look like cities, like in America, that are being run by left. I can't believe that the two mayors aren't left-wingers. I mean, I would be shocked, and I don't know. I think the one here has been here for some time, and is he Islamic? I don't know. But they're covering up. No, the one in London, rather. They're covering up. I mean, it's really pathetic. They have these big, long news reports, and they don't tell you the name of anybody involved, including the adults. But then you look at the neighborhood and you see that the killing was right next to a mosque, and they're not saying it. So not saying it, it's like in America, if police officer kills young boy, and then you never hear another thing about it. It was probably a black police officer who killed a white boy perfectly justifiably. Police officer kills a young boy, black kid with a gun, white police officer. You get a little trouble. No gun, you got a whole thing going on, even though the guy might have been shooting at him 4 times and then the gun dropped, but he didn't have the gun with him at the time. I have been 100% right when backgrounds are withheld as to the backgrounds of the people. Also, when diaries are not published or are published and exaggerated. I'm not even going to go over with you but this thing going on in London right now is a perfect example of it. And the reporters on television don't seem to be as used to it as ours. They look embarrassed. They really do. They look like they should be telling us these things. It's racism not to. If you want to create the impression that America is systemically racist, like Biden accuses us of, well, then all you do is report the white murders. And then you don't realize that in Chicago over the 4th of July weekend, when there were 100 shootings and 19 murders, almost all of them, almost none of them were white. They were all African-American, largely, and a few Hispanic. And now, of course, we have our migrant criminals added to it, the Biden invitees. who are committing crimes left and right all over the country, because they are all over the country. And their crimes tend to be more of a sexual nature, attacking little children, beating up little girls, and then thefts, major thefts. And then the establishment of a rather new and strong, very quickly gaining tremendous power at Nicaragua, which should be named, which should have a forward when they write the book about it by Joe Biden as to exactly how he got them in here this quickly, or a thank you from Maduro to Biden for helping him lower his crime rate to 65%, despite the fact that it did him no good in the election. He got, like everyone thinks, about 10% of the vote, and he cheated his way to the election. That was after getting a lot of money for Biden when Biden decided to buy oil from him again. And he, Maduro, promised to have a free and fair election. And I think Biden considers this a free and fair election. He imprisoned his first opponent, and now he's cheating his second opponent. Now, Biden obviously isn't as good as him. Biden tried like hell to imprison his first opponent. I mean, four indictments in 1 year. Come on. He made a good old college try of being a corrupt Democrat, which he is. And no one is saying that he was responsible for the attempted murder of Donald Trump. So we're not going to lay that on him. But there was an attempted murder of his, purely coincidental, I guess. I mean, he wanted him off the ballot desperately. He brought 4 indictments against him. He got his Democratic secretaries of state to individually just throw him off the ballot. He got the worst prosecutor in the Justice Department, Smith, who'd been upbraided by the Supreme Court to attempt 2 fixes like he had done once before, not just one, but 2, both of which seem to have been thwarted. He then tried a Hail Mary pass of a debate and ended up sounding like a bumbling fool who shouldn't have been in charge of this country for the last 4 years, with just about everyone in his party, including most prominently his vice president, covering it up. If that's not a crime, I don't know what is. And then, of course, purely out of nowhere, this young boy we know nothing about who had, well, they said he had accounts with foreign countries, but they stopped saying that now. But this young boy of 19 or 20 years old who we don't know anything about. He's the only 19-year-old doesn't use the social media. He seems to have no connections to anything. Yet he got himself to the right place at the right time. The amount of time they had to find out who he was and how suspicious he was keeps expanding every day. It began with none. It became 20 minutes, then 57, then 90. At no point did they tell us originally was he considered a threat. He was considered suspicious. Now we're told for about 20 minutes before the event he was considered a threat. I want to bet that's going to expand after a while. Having some expertise in these matters, having handled the Hinckley situation, I would have to tell you that suspicious for that length of time is absurd. Even if it was 57 minutes, that's an eternity in a crowd that size to find the guy, isolate him, and just for the heck of it, throw him out. And if you don't throw him out, stay on top of him. Don't let him get out of your sight until the thing is over if you want to protect and keep Donald Trump alive. I did have to go to him a year ago and warn him that he might be killed, that it's the last step these criminals will take. A lot of this comes about because you in the press cover up what they're doing. So the American people would say, oh my goodness, they could never do anything like this. I mean, they have committed the worst crimes that you could possibly think of in a government over the last 5 years. They look like a group of people that are capable of the worst possible things. Hillary Clinton paid $1.1 million to frame him. carried the frame up through a 3 to 4 year cycle, including using American elected officials to lie, to write letters, to cheat in order to remove a duly elected president illegally from office. They then invented a bribery story with Ukraine that was easily disproved by a hard drive they were covering up deliberately. They then covered up the hard drive after I revealed it to the New York Times to successfully defraud the American people of the information they surely would have used to keep Joe Biden a 30-year criminal, which is what the hard drive proves, out of office. Please let me say that again. You don't need a trial if you just want to be an informed American. Just read the hard drive. It proves by text, by email, by video recording, and by audio recording that, let me sum it up for you, that for 30 years, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has given half his salary to his father. And then it gives you enormous reasons why that salary would be going to his father, because his son never really had a job. And that money, clearly, when you read the hard drive, belongs to his father because it's bribery. It's bribery money, and the guy who had the public office was Joe. And then Joe would do things for the people, the most outrageous of which came toward the end when he has given China. Oh, he's given China, whether you want to count the 31 million they've gotten through the business transactions or the 1.5 billion guarantee for the phony financial institution that was made up of Joe Biden's son, John Kerry's son, Devin Archer, who worked for Kerry and Biden, and I think now is in jail, and of course, the nephew of Whitey Bulger, which you never hear of. You never hear of, well, you always hear, there's no proof that Joe Biden got money. Bullshit. There is a text in American English that is called an admission, which is evidence. Legal evidence, not make-believe New York Times lying evidence or non-evidence, but legal evidence that used to be considered important before the New York Bar Association starting to disbar people for political purposes purely. And the text says, for 30 years, I've given you half my salary. That is evidence that he gave him money. You don't have to put the money in the bank. Once he said it, he's testified against him. Cohen didn't put the money in the bank. He testified that he agreed to something. That's what testimony is. It can be false, but it's still evidence. You cannot say there is no evidence against him. You're lying every time you say it. Every single left-wing member of the media, because you're protecting a criminal. A major criminal, and now you find not only was he a criminal with China, not only was he a criminal with Russia, my God, that's close to treason. No, isn't it treason? But he's a major criminal with Ukraine, and it's why we can't unwind from this war. Because we don't have the foggiest idea how much of that money is going to the soldiers, to the people, to Zelensky's best friend who launders money is the chief money launderer in Ukraine, now in a bank, now in a jail after he was brought back out of exile, but a jail that apparently is great. So this, as I've been further away for a couple of days reading about this, the number of circumstances are becoming overpowering, but not yet conclusory. We got more to go, and we got more work to do. So the hypothesis is alive. The charge isn't. There's one other thing before I take a short break that I have to say. There are a lot of horrible things that the Biden administration has done to slap around the people of America. What he's done to what Biden and has done to the Gold Star families is unthinkable. What Harris has done to the people of the border is a sin. She becomes the border czar and goes off and gets her nails done, Give me a break. Yeah. How about the question? Have you gone to the border? Vice president at this point. Vice president of the United States. Well, I haven't gone to Europe either. I haven't gone to Europe either. And you're the vice president and you weren't selected because you're a black woman? You were selected on the merit of not having gone to Europe? Who do you want to bullshit, huh? Who do you think? We're really stupid? He said, I'm going to select a black woman. And then he selects someone who's never even gone to Europe. That's why she says things like, Russia is a big country and Ukraine is a small country that's right next to it that Russia wanted to take. That was her description of the war, not just to the children, to adults. And now, these traitors in Washington are setting free the animals that attacked us on September 11. They're not going to set them free. They will set them free. They've not going to try them for the death penalty because they're afraid to try the case. Who knows why? What slimy, disgusting secrets it would reveal. Well, it is, you know what it reveals? You're a bunch of slimy, disgusting, non-American, non-civilized, indecent people. And I'm being disbarred, and you're letting the worst terrorists in the 21st century go free of the death penalty? And come on. You let everybody out of jail, you Democratic bums, since Andrew Cuomo signed his name to the law, a straight group of Democratic governors, do you know 28 police killers have been let out? 28 police killers have been let out? And you want to tell me they're going to be in jail for the rest of their lives? I know the people I saw go down in those buildings are gone for the rest of their lives. But not these scumbags and not you, who are bigger scumbags for not executing them. Will you get these people out of office? We're not going to have an America anymore. We're going to be like this place, France. Please, God, excuse my bad words and hear my prayer for my country. This is beyond acceptable. How many are you going to let them kill before we are delivered from them? And I'm not going to excuse myself for being overly emotional about September 11th. You came and killed the people of my city, innocent people. People taking their sandwiches or their breakfast food in the morning, opening their computer to see a friendly note or a very difficult business transaction. And you kill them because you are inflamed with the insanity of the bad Mohammed. You haven't distorted a religion. You've taken an interpretation that is a valid one and used it, as opposed to an interpretation that hopefully could be a valid one that would make it peaceful. But Mohammed taught you to murder. So cut it out. Obama, stop defending them. Stop lying to the American people. This has gone on long enough. Mohammed was a mass murderer. And you're making fun of Jesus Christ here in Paris? Why don't you parade Mohammed up to Seine, killing 100 Jews? Maybe that's where it started for them, with Mohammed. Now, what would happen if we did that? We should be commended for reminding people of a bad part of history. That's real. What you saw going up the Seine River is not real. We'll be back very shortly. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Well, I'm back.
Yep. Welcome back, Mayor. I just wanted to say hello.
Let me finish chewing my French bread, which is the one good thing about France. They still have great bread. But Ted?
Yes, sir.
Even the bread isn't as good. It's still good, but it isn't as good. We have bread in New York just as good. So I'm having a very tough time here. This place has deteriorated. It's like, I guess we've deteriorated. I bet if they come to New York, I know, of course, they tell me the same thing, how much New York has deteriorated, don't they, when we see them in New York? So I guess I'm experiencing what people experience when they come to New York now who haven't been here since before COVID. I see, for example, that murder has gone up since COVID with all of Adam's discussion of how he reduced murder. Some other crimes have gone up dramatically. Homelessness is 3 times what it was. School performance is down 1/3. So I guess I see that every day. I come here to France and to Paris, and look, I was never a big fan of Paris, but boy, it has really deteriorated. You're going to be shocked if you've been here. If you haven't been here in about 4 or 5 years, you're going to be shocked at how dirty it is. This is a deteriorating Western civilization, which they announced for everyone to see by mocking the Last Supper. How are people in America reacting to that, Ted? I don't know that he heard me. Well,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I had to push these buttons sometimes. I got all these buttons over here.
So tell me how the people in America are reacting to the mockery on a world stage with 90 million people watching of Jesus Christ, the head of the Christian religion, who we believe is the Son of God.
They really did feel a pushback here in the States, to the point where, I don't know if it was NBC or the Olympics themselves, went into overdrive and hiding a lot of that and covering it up.
Oh, I mean, the picture isn't. If you take the picture of the main group behind Dionysius, they're all lined up just like the apostles, and then they have this gigantically fat woman who I don't know what she is, some kind of a well, I don't know. I don't want to say what she is because I don't know what she is, but whatever it is, I don't think it's anything good. And she's holding something up just like, Jesus offering up his body and his blood. And then they're all standing around like the apostles. And by the way, before they put it out for months, they were talking about doing something to mock a religion because they were going to take religion on. Religion is so bad, and they're really so good for a Paris that has more crime than it's ever had before. It's really good without religion here in Paris. You just get a lot more people killed, and then in London you get a murder, and they don't tell you any of the facts of the murder because they are politically sensitive. I mean, they make us look transparent.
I was going to ask you that question. What is it like compared to the American media?
Same thing, but they hold it out forever. We usually guess it about 2 days into it, right, Ted? So they tell you about a murder, but they don't tell you the race or the religion.
Well, you know
right
get
away.
It right away.
Well, we've never been wrong. I mean, never. But they usually we get it in about 2 or 3 days. This has been like about 7 days now. It hasn't come out.
Wow.
And it's actually a little ridiculous because they show you pictures of where the shooting took place. Oh, and then, by the way, a whole bunch of cops got beaten up. I have no idea why they are rioting. If a Muslim teenager killed a Muslim boy, why are they beating up the cops?
25 minutes and we're done.
Pardon me? I cannot figure out how the British cops I mean, they beat up the cops if a white cop, or even a black cop kills a black kid. Even if it's totally justified, they beat up the cops. But and 9 times out of 10, it's totally justified. But how do the British cops get blamed for what's going on in the Islamic communities here in England, where all this crime is going on?
That's who they're blaming?
Well, that's where the riot is directed against.
That's amazing. And that's
but that is
interesting. That's like what's happening here on steroids.
Yeah, I guess maybe we're sharing it in common. I think it's actually probably the best evidence. The best evidence that Jimmy from Brooklyn used to have about communism taking over. This is exactly what communism wants. It wants the destruction of Western civilization, because Western civilization was the single and biggest enemy of communism. And Western civilization encompasses the Jewish and the Christian religions, the two religions that Mohammed wanted to wipe out at the end of his life. The whole idea that Mohammed saw Christians and Jews in a benign way, and the Muslim religion as a completion of that, is the early Mohammed. The later Mohammed, who was rejected by the Jews, the Christians, and the Arabs, decided he was going to convert by conquering, by death, or let's say by mass murder, which also was directed particularly toward Jews, interestingly enough. And plenty of evidence of Mohammed the murderer. So now what would happen if we're going to be so free of religion? Why don't they pick the Muslim religion and go down the Seine with Muslims, with Muhammad directing Jews being put in a joint grave, which he did in order to obtain their best olive grove. He killed the first group of Jews, put them in a joint grave, and then told the rest, "You're either going to die or give me the olive grove." Sounds like John Gotti to me. Maybe John Gotti could have played Mohammed. How would they have felt about that? Freedom of religion, right? This two-tiered justice system, it's a two-tiered world. And it's being done on purpose. It's being two-tiered to take it away from the forces of decency, of goodness, of honor, of truth, of peace. And in the middle of it, Have you found? I keep searching. Still can't find any words from Vice President Babblemouth. I can't find any words from her talking about the horrible things that Hezbollah did to the Druze and to the Israeli citizens. Have you found any words from her? I've seen a couple of measly little statements from some unknown named Gordon who claims to work for her. But have you found anything in her? It was worth her making a very, very bold statement about how terrible Israel was when Bibi was here, shortly before Bibi had to incur the worst attack on his country since October 7th by a group that she supports who slaughtered, once again, children. Has she said anything? Has she said anything about the Druze children?
So following the attack, which killed 12 children.
Yeah, most of whom were Israelis, not Jewish, but Druze.
Harris said the following, quote, Israel has the right to defend itself against a terrorist organization, which is exactly what Hezbollah is. So she did seem to come out against.
Wait. First of all, I think that was before. Go check that again. First of all, I think that was before the attack took place. I believe that was when she walked out of her meeting with Bibi and then went on to spend 15 minutes explaining how they have a right to defend themselves, but that they've gone too far. I've seen that 5 times. That's not the one I'm talking about. That if you go check back really carefully, I think you're going to see that took place a day to 2 days before the attack, because that night Bibi went down to Mar-a-Lago, met with Trump, got a very different kind of reception, with the emphasis on the criminality of Hamas, and then had to rush back to Israel. Sometime during that period when she was attacking Israel, Hamas was attacking Israel also. Her friends were attacking Israel also. I'd like to see if she's made a statement since then, since that date, which I think it's the 13th. So try again. I think a statement you're talking about is on the 12th.
I'll take a look.
Take a look. I just don't think they want to give up the 14 votes in Michigan. I mean, they're working hard for those 14 votes. And, so far, every time they poll those 14 votes, they're not going to vote for them no matter what they do. I mean, those people are really amazing. They're not going to vote for Biden or her no matter what they do. They say, every time you hear them interviewed or polled, they say they're traitors. We're not going to vote for them. I haven't seen any indication that the pandering and the slobbering over the Hamas and Hezbollah and Iranian terrorists by Biden and Harris has changed that vote. Maybe it has. I don't. Have you seen anything on that? Hello?
So it's interesting. We're still looking for.
I don't think you heard what I said.
We're not. What you? Go ahead.
I'm not going to repeat it again. But somehow we're getting. Are we having a breakdown in communicating?
Yeah. Well, when I click off when I'm not on the screen here, you can't hear me and I can't hear you. So I come back on from time to time here.
Well, I mean, I asked you a question. So it's kind of strange because then there's no response on the other end. I was saying, is there any indication that the vote in Michigan is switching? the vote of the Islamic people is lightening up on Harris and on
So that's a very good
Biden.
question. People that I'm talking to, unfortunately, they're getting they're fired up by Harris, right? That has injected a little bit of excitement into the Democrat Party and their race. However, I do think Harris will have similar problems as Biden, and they seem to be obsessed with these votes in Dearborn. One thing to remember about Michigan, Mayor, and you know that I know it very well. There's also a large, well, I don't want to say large, but it's not an insignificant Jewish American population. And so, yes, there are these votes in Dearborn. They say it's around 300,000 total. But what are those folks going to do? Go over to Trump? So it's an interesting situation that the Democrat Party finds themselves in. It'll be interesting to see how they try and get around that.
So I guess the choice with the Islamic voters is, do they vote for Harris or do they stay home?
Yes.
The choice with the Jewish people is a little more complicated. Do they vote for Harris? Do they stay home or do they vote for Trump?
Yes.
And you're going to get some combination of that. And in that combination, I think, is going to tell you more about the result of Michigan than the Islamic vote. What I mean by that is, if the Jewish vote goes historically for Trump, it's over. It's over for her.
Absolutely.
Because it won't just affect Michigan, but there are Jewish voters in critical places all over the country. There are not Islamic. The Islamic vote's not going to mean a damn thing in New York. There's a very small Islamic vote in New York. There is a powerful Jewish vote in New York. So it's not going to make that much difference in a lot of places. The Jewish population is just much greater, also much more politically active and able to organize themselves. And I don't know what else the Democrats could do to the Jewish people to cast their vote away. I mean,
that's a good point.
Particularly with Schumer double-crossing them. And if I would think if what's his name gets on the ticket, it'd be like an insult. It's such pandering. First of all, it's such pandering. He's such a turncoat. I mean, gee, they got more than about 10 guys who can play Brutus. I'll tell you that. Well, I was going to use somebody from The Last Supper as an example, but I thought maybe that'd be a little extreme. How long you want to play Last Supper with me? But you think about Schumer being in favor of Israel all his life, and now he wants Bibi fired. I mean, the guy's trying to say, shouldn't we wait until the guy saves his country before we fire him? At least we gave Winston Churchill until he saved England before the communists threw him out. And then they threw him out the day after. But he came back and put us on the right track on the Cold War because he knew exactly who got rid of him. These idiots, some of them don't know who's getting rid of them, but it's the communists.
Because these are politicians, not leaders, right, Mayor?
Yeah, they're not politicians. Politician can be a good thing. These are lying scum. That's what they are. They don't care about their country. All they care about is money, standing. Schumer just cares about how powerful he is. Pelosi just cares about money. Biden doesn't care about anything. Vanilla ice cream. I mean, he's completely gone, right? Harris is working on is there a country bigger than Russia so that they could beat Russia for Ukraine, because Russia went after Ukraine because it's bigger. You know, that statement that she made, she did make it. She also made it to adults. She thinks like a 5-year-old. Russia's a big country, and China and Ukraine's a small country, and that's why they invaded it. I mean, by that token, America is a big country, and Mexico is a small country, so that's why we'll just invade it. All big countries will just invade small countries. That's what'll happen. What's your name, Ralph?
Well, we're hearing that she's going to be making her selection for vice president before Tuesday or by Tuesday. She's scheduled a series of events, and the first one is taking place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So that's leaving some folks to believe Josh Shapiro is the front runner in the Veep stakes on the Democrat side. She's hosting a series of events starting Tuesday. The first one is in Philadelphia.
Well, it could be interesting. They're gonna try a Hail Mary pass to get the Jewish vote back, and we'll have to see we'll have to see how they can put their. I mean, they are both of them, both Shapiro and her, are enormously capable of lying. I mean, they're about as dishonest a group of people as you can, and he is probably one of the people primarily responsible for stealing the vote in Pennsylvania.
15, less than 15 minutes, sorry.
15 minutes to go? Is that what you're telling me?
That's right.
Okay. So, I never counted time. So what else is going on that I'm missing?
So here in the States, we've got, of course, the Veep stakes on the Democrat side. President Trump's been hosting speeches. He had a great event yesterday with the National Association of Black Journalists, which really exposed the left once again and the American media machine.
I saw the interview with the lady. Boy, he gave it to her really good about being nasty and not friendly and not nice and not a nice person. I mean, she came right out of the box with, not even a welcome former, even if she wanted to say former, I mean, it never occurs to them. They never called Obama former President Obama. Well, of course, so if they're going to call him former President Trump, I'm going to call him Prince Obama, because he wants to get rid of all that colonization that America did, which was none. Oh, right.
And then, of course, Mayor, we had the big U.S.-Russia prisoner swap today.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Gershkovich and more than a dozen others. In exchange, Moscow received 8 Russians who had been imprisoned in 5 different countries.
So they got all their spies back for one person. I mean, I'm glad we got Evan back. God bless him. I guess one of us is worth 8 of them.
Well, Russia released more than a dozen prisoners, including Americans, Germans, and Russian
that's good.
dissidents.
That's better than the trades that are made with the Palestinians, where they do 1,000 for one.
Three were American: Evan Gershkovich and Alsu Komasheva, and of course, former Marine Paul Whelan was also a part of it.
Oh, thank God! Well, that's good. I didn't see that part. That's very, very good. I'm glad to see, and I'm glad to see that Paul is also out. All of it unnecessary. And
several Russian dissidents were also imprisoned and released. In exchange, Moscow received 8 Russians who had been imprisoned in 5 different countries. The biggest prize of the group for Russia was Vadim Prezikov. Are you familiar with that name? A Kremlin-connected colonel in Russia's Secret Service who was jailed in Germany in 2019 for the killing of a Chechen dissident. So if you're following this is quite the complex deal involving a number of countries.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do because it's one thing when you're swapping spies. The Cold War almost became a game. But one of the things that nations try to preserve is don't use my land to settle your battles. In other words, if the Russians want to go after, let's say a Polish guy, right? You don't go kill him in London. You want to kill him, you kill him in Poland, you kill him in Russia. But you don't spread it. You shouldn't kill him at all, but you don't spread it to other countries. And that's usually treated rather harshly. But, these these prisoner swaps are very hard to criticize because human life is involved, and we value human life a lot more than they do. Certainly the Israelis do, and we do. And Biden is a terrible negotiator anyway, so just the mere fact that he could get them out, I'm surprised he didn't have to give up the entire United States military. He probably wanted to. They just held him back.
Well, man, we got plenty more. Let's maybe take our final break.
Okay, we'll take a final break, and we'll come back, and I'll be back tomorrow, taking the plane tomorrow, back to New York, back to. I think I may be going to New Hampshire. Right. Okay. Good. Well, we'll figure it out. You let me know in the morning which way I'm going.
That's right. We'll be right back.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Don't forget your MyPillows. Here I am in Paris and London. You think Mike sells MyPillows here?
I'm curious. How do you think he does over in France?
I don't know. They don't look like MyPillows. They look like big, gigantic bombs. You can tell I don't like anything about France. Paris. I went today to Waterloo, to the last battle of Napoleon Bonaparte, and studied the battle and watched the movie and made videos, and I'm going to put them out next week. And I'm going to show you the basic mistake that Napoleon made. It's very simple. I'll tell you right now. The basic mistake that he made in Waterloo was he came back from, he originally was defeated, and he was exiled to Elba. And in his 2 or 3 years there, he was always very popular. He remained, more popular than the people who took over from him. And they wanted him back. So he organized an army. He came back, and within, I think, 2 months, he took them on. However, they had been they knew he was going to do that. And they probably even let him out of Elba early, so his army wouldn't be that well formed. Meanwhile, the British, the Prussians, and basically the British, the Prussians, the Belgium, Netherlands, a couple of other countries, a multinational force got together under the Duke of Wellington. And they really planned for the battle at Waterloo. So he was fighting in their territory with an army that he only had about 2 months to put together and train. And he almost won the battle. But he lost it. And then he was finally exiled and never to Saint. Then he was exiled to St. Helena. Originally, it was Elba, and never died there after 6 years. But when you consider the early Napoleon, which would be the first 10 years of the 19th century, that was one of the greatest military conquests in the history of the world since Caesar. I mean, and you can see even generals get anxious and rusty, and because he made major mistakes that led to his original defeat when he invaded Moscow. And then he made the terrible mistake when he came back. Had he waited a year and organized a much better army, given the success that he had with the poorly organized army and the unbelievable ability he had to have men fight for him, history may have been different. One never knows. An interesting place to go if you're. It's actually in Belgium. I mean, why would France have a memorial to one of their worst losses in history? So it's right over the border. In Waterloo is actually now in Belgium. I'm not sure when the battle was fought, if it was in Belgium or in France. I think it was still in Belgium then. But it was considerably more interesting to me than the Olympics, I must tell you, particularly after. And I'm not saying anything about the athletes. I think some of them are wonderful. They're great people. But this Olympic thing is disgusting. The Olympics is a product of Western civilization, nothing else but, and to attack Western civilization that way, and to attack the heartfelt beliefs of a billion people or more. When if it was some other religion, there'd be an uproar that would require the canceling of the Olympics. Christians are treated horribly. And I mean, horribly to the point of being eliminated in Africa and eliminated in China. And nobody cares.
Would you say it's gotten worse?
Yeah.
Since you've been going to Europe for decades.
Oh my
goodness! Say it's gotten worse.
Well, anti-Semitism and anti-Semitism gets a great deal of attention because of the Holocaust, as it should, and I can see why it would. And I really want to take no attention away from it at all. In fact, I think it should get more. But I do think the anti-Christianity, even in the United States, the things that the Biden and Harris people do, and Garland about Christians is outrageous. It's outrageous. They take women who are against abortion and put them in jail for 5-6 years. They cheer for 9-month abortions. No wonder our world is in the terrible condition it's in. That trip down the Seine said Sodom and Gomorrah. God is now watching his people going through a somewhat, if not worldwide, very extensive Sodom and Gomorrah, not confined just to 2 cities. And the godless atheists are winning, big time, big time. And everybody, defended what they did. NBC kind of apologized, but it's also appropriate that it's on NBC. NBC is a station that on its news coverage spends. I think they actually sit down and work out how to lie. Their lies are intricate. They're detailed. They covered up the hard drive. They fixed the election by doing that. They're doing everything they can now to take a woman who's never been to Europe and tell her she's an expert on foreign policy. It was actually in the newspapers here in Europe that she's well regarded on foreign policy because nobody ever saw her. They don't even know what she thinks. And then when she explains it, you got to be like in 3rd grade to kind of figure it out. But they just write it. What foreign policy, anything has she done? Including not even visiting the countries she's supposed to know about. But we're going to have a close election despite that. I think Trump is going to win it. I think this idea that he should calm down and he should refer to her differently and he should be different and dream away. We're going to get Donald Trump.
Right.
The good and the bad.
Yes, sir.
Right? Or what some people consider the bad. And I think
What is it, Mayor? These people keep saying, "Oh, he's got to tone it down." They've been saying the same stuff for 8 years.
I don't know.
Meanwhile, he's done it his way, and he's made it just
don't
fine without him.
Don't tone it down and save Israel. Don't tone it down and stop the war in Ukraine. Don't tone it down and end inflation. Don't tone it down and end overregulation. Don't tone it down and get us fair tariffs so we don't get raped by the Chinese. Don't tone it down and rebuild our military. Don't tone it down and stop them from mutilating our children. How about that? Don't tone it down and bring God back to America. Don't tone it down and give me free speech. And don't tone it down and keep me out of prison for the rest of my damn life for doing nothing wrong. I'll take that. Tone it up, actually. Come on, let's tone it up. You think people got really upset when he came up after having almost been killed and yelled, "Fight"? Of course we have to fight. They're trying to take our country away from us. They're trying to take our civilization away from us. That's what communists are about. Read, 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 read. Communists want to take your civilization away. That's what the Cultural Revolution was all about. And they're doing it right now. That's what that piece of garbage floating down that polluted river was. I look at the Seine River. Man, they couldn't pay me $1 million to swim in that river. Some of those people that swim in that river are going to die or something. I mean, they started fixing it 10 years ago. And then about 5 years ago, they got a big, gigantic bulge of feces that came into the river again. I used a nice word for it.
Yeah.
They claim to have gotten it out, and they failed the test just 3 days ago. They're lying. They probably got Dr. Fauci to do the test. And they gave him shares. They gave him shares in every big major company. And Dr. Fauci did the test. You're okay.
What way to ruin a conservative's night? Just mention Dr. Fauci. That guy.
I'm only 2 blocks from the Seine, and it's kind of late. I think I'm going to take. No, I'm going to go take. I took a picture for you.
Oh, good. Yeah.
When do you see how dirty? When do you see how dirty it is? These poor guys are going to have to swim in it. And you know, about half of them don't want to.
Yeah. What? So what? They? I mean, these guys.
Look, I know.
These are athletes.
I know polluted rivers. I'm going to tell you something really interesting. You could swim in both New York rivers without a problem. The New York rivers have been unpolluted
swim in the Harlem River?
Absolutely. 100%. They've been unpolluted for, 20 years, 25 years. A long, long time. I mean, remember, it came from industry. Most of that came from industry in upstate New York, and it's all gone, which is a bad thing in a way. But we don't use our rivers for what these. I mean, come on. You know the jokes about the French about showering and stuff like that. You never have you haven't been here, right?
No. Okay, I've never been to France.
You're going to come. You were going to come this time. You come next time because we've been invited back for another with our MEK people. We've been invited back for. But I'm going to get you a beautiful. I'm going to get you it as a gift. I'm going to get you like a clothespin for your nose, a nice clothespin. Now it won't even look bad on Sometimes if you wear a clothespin, it looks bad. I'm going to get you a little French clothespin. I put my French clothespin.
What sort of smells are you going to get?
Everything imaginable. Bad smells.
Really? You're not,
yeah. And you got to take it,
right? Because New York's got a few blocks.
No,
once
nothing like
in a while, you'll get a block.
No. Then you got to take anti-sexually communicated disease injection. Dr. Fauci has the vaccine.
Oh gosh.
The only problem with it is everybody that took it got sexually transmitted diseases, even though they didn't have sex.
Yeah.
Some people say the vaccine did it, but Dr. Fauci said, no. Just give me my $2 million and that's it.
We laugh, but it's
It's
too
really
bad what's
late.
happened, right?
I'm getting a little silly because you know what time it is for me.
It's soccer time.
Soccer time. It's 12:45.
No, yeah.
And
Well, that's how dedicated he is to this program, folks. He doesn't
You
want to miss it. He told me today I'm coming on. We did a full show tonight.
I did a lot of photography. I did a lot of 360 photography. You'll see. I did some good stuff in London. I did really good stuff at Waterloo. Very little in Paris. I did Paris this morning before I left for Waterloo. I realized that my hotel restaurant on the top of my hotel has a 360 view of Paris. Quite beautiful.
That's amazing.
Where I was having breakfast. Now, these are the parts that I'm a sucker for Western civilization. Right in the center is the Eiffel Tower. And then you just go over like this, way over, and there's Mont Saint-Michel. Right on the mountain, Mont Saint-Michel, one of the first religious colonies in Paris. And then you can look over down the Seine, the Ile de Paris, and you can see Notre Dame. And then before that, a couple of days ago, I took Maria and her grandchildren and a daughter, and I took them to Chartres Cathedral. And then I took them to the Cathedral of Orleans. And I showed them how French cathedrals emerged out of Gothic cathedrals. It's another one of my useless bit of knowledge from going to Catholic school and taking Manhattan College's 4-year course on art. And Chartres is sort of the prototype cathedral. It's a combination Gothic French cathedral, and the French design are those beautiful. They're really not narrow, but in the context of a gigantic Gothic cathedral, they look like narrow columns that go way up into the sky and then go like this. Flying buttresses like this.
Yeah.
But the cathedral looks like this. So like the Gothic cathedral looks like this.
Yeah.
What the French did, and Chartres is like a combination of the two. It's a little like this. 3 entrances, but then that main entrance is like this.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you get to Orleans, it's even more dramatic. And then you have to go to St. Patrick's in New York, and that is those beautiful, narrow, they look, like this.
Yeah.
That's all French design. That's all the French influence on the Roman cathedral, the Gothic cathedral. And gosh, they're beautiful. And you think about it, built in 1185.
Wow.
1185.
Yeah, we don't have stuff like that here in the States.
Guys, that's too heavy for me. Yeah. I'm going to go become an illegal immigrant in New York and get a free. I don't want to lift up. I'm going to go to New York and get a free debit card from Mayor Adams.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, we're excited to have you back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We got to get back on that election, man.
And tomorrow night we'll be back in order here.
Yeah. I can tell you, I don't think the Harris thing is selling big time here. This is not even with the libs. The libs,
they loved Obama, right? Europe loved Obama.
The libs had absorbed all of the silly stuff on her. It had gotten through.
Okay. That makes sense.
Nobody protected her against that, and they remember it, and they wonder, oh my God, are they going? They literally ask me, are they going from bad to worse? And you don't have too many in London. You got some conservatives, but you don't have too many here in Paris.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they're worried. I mean, I think here they all think Trump is in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they're getting ready for it.
So maybe they're getting ready for it. Yeah. The French, right?
All right, Ted. You take him to the end. I'm going to go pack up and
We'll see you
make
tomorrow.
Make sure I get
on the
home
program
tomorrow night I want a triumphant entrance like Caesar.
He's greeting you up front.
Like Caesar
We'll
returning
the
to
trumpets.
Rome. Yeah, something like when Xi Jinping returned to San Francisco and his supplicants, Harris and the governor and Pelosi turned the city over to him, and they all cheered for the guy who killed the most. The living man who's killed the most Chinese. They were all cheering for him. Kill some more Chinese for us. Kill some more Chinese.
But the only difference is with you, we know they'll be waving American flags, maybe a couple Italian flags, but for the most part, American flags. Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Right. God bless America. I hope nothing bad went on back here. I just put a thing on, and I don't even know what it was.
Just a scrolling series of
images.
Pretty good.
This one looks pretty
all
good.
Non-offensive, even some from New York.
No Last Suppers
none of that.
I mean, the real Last Supper I'd be fine with, but I'm worried, embarrassed. I'm glad the Last Supper.
I bet you were shocked.
I'm glad the Last Supper's in
France.
I'm glad the Last Supper's in Italy. I'm glad.
Well, thanks for joining us.
I also have to tell you, we saw Stonehenge.
Oh, wow. I've never.
Oh,
what is that
big
like?
Pictures of that. I'll tell you that. Boy, I'll tell you all about that. Okay. Well, thank you and have a wonderful evening. God bless America. Pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of Europe. Eastern Europe, of course, they're being slaughtered and they're being threatened by the Russians. But in Western Europe, bring them back to God. That's the only thing that's going to work. This is the only thing that's going to work. This is where Christianity sort of grew and flourished.
Right.
Please pray for the people of America, and God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to